Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day 474. 474. It is Wednesday, June the 27th, 2018. Thank you so much for tuning in. Well, of course you know it's on Wednesday that I take out the trash and have chicken. Every Wednesday I take out the trash and I have chicken. Now, Joe Mack suggested in the comment section I should maybe boycott chicken for one day, but probably not tomorrow because I'm having one of my favorite chickens, which is stuffed chicken. Chicken with stuffed broccoli and cheese, one of my absolute favorites. Probably won't do that tomorrow, Joe Mack, but maybe one of these Wednesdays I will. Thanks for the comment. Alrighty, let's dig into some things here. We got some pretty important news to cover today. Most of you have heard by now from this bombshell interview that John Solomon did with Sean Hannity last night. That we are learning that Julian Assange, was ready to provide technical evidence to the FBI, and Comey turned him down. This explosive news, of course, comes from John Solomon, told to Sean Hannity last night. This could have proven who did not provide these documents, and probably who did. Comey needs to go to jail. Clearly, obstruction. Total obstruction. We should demand that Assange be able to provide the evidence to Horowitz or Mr. Huber. That's what we should be demanding right now. And what about the Federal Bureau of I'm With Her Director Christopher No Shit Sherlock Ray? Now, here we are, No Shit Sherlock Ray. You now know, and you already knew, obviously, that the FBI, under Comey, put the kibosh on getting this information which Julian Assange is trying to give to you. Now, yes, he is trying to get something in return. But there's no question that when you're conducting an investigation such as supposedly the one that Uncle Bob is conducting or that the FBI is conducting, the very first thing you're doing, should do, if you were trying to do an investigation into Russian interference into the election, is first of all establish whether or not they did or did not hack the DNC and the Podesta emails. And there you had Julian Assange, who was in the process and just about had a deal done when it made its way to Comey, and he kiboshed the deal. Now apparently the kind of the backstory to this is that the FBI lawyer under Comey and Senator Mark Warner were involved with an American attorney whose name we've heard before, who was representing Assange. And Assange was willing to cut a deal to get immunity so he could get out of the embassy and go on with his life. And he was promising not to release all that Vault 7 stuff from the CIA. He was also saying that he would do two other things. He would assist the CIA in letting them know exactly what their vulnerabilities were that allowed him to get the Vault 7 releases, and he was also going to prove or produce the evidence that the Russians were not responsible for passing that information to WikiLeaks. He was going to prove that it was in fact leaked to him and not hacked from anyone. And that's very important, because when he says it had to be leaked, that means it had to be someone on the inside. And I think we all know where that leads, and I think we know that's why Comey killed the deal. Because Comey knows where that leads. So, Christopher No Shit Sherlock Ray needs to act. Assange has the evidence. With this Russia investigation going on, with all these claims about this and that and the other thing, what needs to be done right now, and a real investigation should have already happened, is they need to go over there to England. They need to sit down with Assange. They need to work something out, because he could be a great asset to them. He can tell them why they're getting hacked. He can show them how they can prevent getting hacked. But more importantly, he can reveal what is at the root of all this, and what supposedly started all this was supposedly the Russians hacking the DNC, getting this information, giving it to WikiLeaks, and they publish it or whatever. This is what the left has been blaming Mueller and everybody else for 2 years now, and it's never been proven. And we know it's likely, very likely, false, based on the fact that Assange has said it's false. So this really needs to come to a head, and I certainly hope that there are some people in Congress. I certainly hope that we can maybe get a special counsel or a citizen jury or a presidential commission or something where there can actually be someone who can get that information from Assange. And we should work out a deal with Assange. It's ridiculous what's been going on over there. He's a publisher. You don't like what he publishes, but he publishes things people leak to him. He doesn't publish things that people hack. And he's always stated that. We have no reason not to believe him. We have every reason in the world to believe Julian Assange and every reason in the world to question the FBI based on what we're learning. So, huge story. And apparently this deal was very close to being done. They had basically worked out pretty much of the details. And when Comey got wind of it, he shut it down. And I believe, I can't remember the name of the attorney, I think it was Baker, was the guy who was working out the deal. Mark Warner was involved in it, and this American lawyer, whose name I forget, but his name has come up before. He was representing Assange. So, bombshell report by John Solomon, and we now know what happened there. We are very close to getting the truth from Julian Assange. And Comey shot it down. We're also learning that Comey ordered retaliation against agents in the field who spoke out against his mishandling of the Clinton email investigation. There are 28 former agents who are willing to testify but are afraid that they're going to be retaliated against, and so they want to be subpoenaed. So far as we can tell, that has not happened. There have been FBI agents who have come forward, we know, to the House Intelligence Committee, to Goodlatte's committee, but apparently there's others who know more, and eventually these guys are going to get to testify. I don't know how exactly that's going to happen, but we know that these 28 agents want to testify. We know they have some issues, some concerns, but eventually their statements are going to be taken. You can bet on that. And this will just be more proof of what a tyrant and what a corrupt, dishonorable director of the FBI and with her that James Comey actually was. And this, of course, this story coming to us from Paul Sperry. Now, Paul Sperry has done too many of these stories on this particular subject. The only way that Sperry's getting this information, he's got to know one or a couple of these former FBI agents, because he's getting way too much inside skinny on this stuff. But again, Paul Sperry reporting that Comey ordered retaliation against agents in the field who spoke out against his mishandling of the Clinton email investigation, which was not an investigation. Unbelievable. Just more evidence of why James Comey should be locked up. Shutting the door on getting the most important piece of information on one of the most important cases the FBI has tried in the last probably 50 years. Retaliating against agents who disagreed with how he handled the cover-up of the Clinton investigation. My oh my. And he's traveling around Europe right now, acting as if he is some sort of godly figure, talking about how bad everything is here. It was all good until you came along, Mr. Comey. In terms of the FBI, they've had problems in the past, but nothing ever like what we saw under Comey. Horribly corrupt, serious questions about his handling of these investigations, and now abuse of power. These 28 former agents can testify to the fact that he certainly abused his position. And it's just a matter of time. These perps are going to answer for their crimes. It's just a matter of time. I can't tell you how it's all going to play out, but I can tell you this. Trump has a plan. I can tell you that. Trump is not the type of guy to sit back and not have a plan. Oh, he's got a plan. We don't know what it is, but we better keep watching, because I'm telling you, Trump has a plan. He's not going to let this go. You think Trump's going to let this go? No way. He's not going to let it go, and he does have a plan. As I told you a couple days ago, from a reporter who was in the courtroom when Concord Management, these lawyers for Concord Management and the Russian trolls were having a field day in the courtroom against Uncle Bob the executioner and the Hillary donor posse. We're now getting another report from this reporter. They had another hearing. In this particular hearing, the lawyers for the Russian trolls and Concord Management were again just destroying Mueller and his case. You see, Uncle Bob the executioner filed his suit as a publicity stunt, believing the Russians would never respond. But they did. And they have come loaded for bear with really good attorneys. Today, or what was today when I wrote this down, it would have been Monday. Monday, lawyers for the trolls and Concord Management filed a motion to dismiss the case on constitutional grounds. The exact same case that's being made by the attorney representing Paul Manafort, which is that Mueller's appointment was legally flawed because he was never nominated by the president and confirmed by the Senate. Nor was he appointed pursuant to a specific law passed by Congress. The judge in this case is the Trump appointee named Dabney Friedrich. This is the exact same argument that Judge Ellis is mulling over right now in the Paul Manafort case. Yes, this came up right not too long after Mueller was appointed. Someone brought this up, that the proper procedure wasn't followed to appoint his special counsel to give him all this authority that Rodenstein gave him. Not only that, there was another issue that came up regarding the scope of what Rodenstein had the ability to do in terms of the scope of the investigation that he could authorize Mueller to take on. So there's still several questions, the constitutional question, the legal question, and all these other questions, but they never seem to go anywhere. Judge Ellis has not ruled yet. We're still waiting on that, and we will see how this judge in this particular case with Concord Management and the Russian trolls versus Uncle Bob the executioner, we will see how the judge responds to his assertion, which is the same exact assertion made by Manafort's lawyers in his case. So we will have to see how they rule on that, but that is quite true. It was a flawed appointment, and if you do read the Constitution, it does say that you need to be confirmed by the Senate. Uncle Bob was never confirmed by the Senate, and he was never nominated by the President. There was no special law passed by Congress. None of those three criteria were met. Uncle Bob is illegal, conducting an illegal investigation. Well, it looks like Mad Max has been censored. They're in the process of putting that together right now, trying to get as many votes as they can. There are even people, members of Congress, calling for Maxine Waters to resign. She is digging herself in, even though various Democrats have come out, and even some on the left have come out and said she was flatly wrong. But she's digging in, and she's still hanging in there. I'm not sure it's going to work. She may be forced out. If anything happens here in the next few days or week or so, where some violence breaks out and someone gets injured, she probably will be forced to resign. Also, Judicial Watch has filed an ethics complaint against Maxine Waters. But like I said, Maxine is not budging. She's too stupid to know when she's very much in the wrong. Even some of the members of the Black Congressional Caucus were interviewed, and they really don't have any comments. So it's tough right now to try to back Mad Max, even if you're a Democrat. A huge win today for Trump in the Supreme Court. Trump, the travel ban has been upheld. It's been upheld with a 5-4 ruling. Huge win for Trump on this. It never should have gone this far. The president clearly has the authority to do what he did. But again, it was just the liberals trying to go through the legal process to drag things out, to drag things down, to slow things down, to do anything they can to make everything difficult and to hurt the country in the process. But they have now failed, and the Supreme Court has ruled 5-4. That's a major deal. There's all sorts of ramifications of this and spin-offs from this ruling that should shut down some of these other lawsuits and should stop any more from being filed, because that's pretty much the last word on the subject. Once the Supreme Court rules, that's pretty much it, for a while anyway. So yes, the travel ban upheld. Huge win for President Trump. We have Reality Winner. Remember her? Reality Winner. She's the one who leaked the classified information. She has now pled guilty to 1 count of unlawful retention and dissemination of national defense information. She's looking at 63 months in jail. That's 5 years and 3 months. No sentencing date has yet been set. Laura Loomer. She went to file a complaint against Mad Max with the Secret Service. And in doing so, she was told by the Secret Service that they already have that investigation open. They have an open investigation on Maxine Waters for inciting violence against the president and his staff. The Secret Service is obviously looking into Mad Max. There's a lot to look at. A lot to look at with Mad Max. Rodenstein still has not produced the documents. He's not going to produce the documents. Mark Meadows this morning stated that they have passed something in the House where they are going to have a floor vote some day this week for contempt and or impeachment against Rodenstein. So they've passed some measure. I forget what they call it, but it's the first measure they passed. In a day or two, it gives Rodenstein, I think, 7 days to comply. He's not going to comply, okay? They already know that, okay? Because I'll tell you why in just a second. But anyway, they have passed this resolution. It's 7 days, gives Rodenstein 7 days to fully comply with all the requests, or they're going to move to have another vote for contempt and then impeachment. But I can tell you that from the letter that Rodenstein sent to the House Intelligence Committee to Devin Nunes, which was posted on the Daily Caller today. I read it. It's a very short letter, but it's basically Rodenstein saying, I'm not giving you the stuff. And he cites 2 or 3 different legal codes, and he says that it's an issue of some of the things that Nunes wanting having to do with national security, and that Rodenstein said, hey, I have an obligation to national security, and that's the priority over what you want. Well, see, here's the problem. Again, I hope Nunes and the boys blow the whistle on this. This entire investigation had nothing to do with national security. It wasn't even an investigation. It was an operation. There was a difference between an investigation and an operation, and none of this stuff dealt with anything that was real national security. There was no Russians trying to infiltrate the Trump campaign, trying to do anything like that. That was entirely a frame-up, a setup operation. And how do we know that? We know that from what I've said on previous videos and from what Lee Smith just covered in a recent article he did in Real Clear Investigations, where he points out the same thing that I did, which is that on 7 occasions during the 2016 election, in the period of 2015 through 2016, on 7 separate occasions, people within the Trump campaign, mostly unpaid volunteers or low-level people within the Trump campaign, were approached by individuals claiming to have dirt on Hillary Clinton, the source of which was either the NSA or Russia or someone else. In none of these cases did we find that it was Trump people reaching out to Russians, Trump people going out digging up, looking for information. On all 7 occasions, it was people who went to Trump's people working on his campaign. It was people going to them and telling them that they had information and trying to get people in the Trump campaign to deal with them, to pay them, or to accept documents, or just to go tell somebody that they had these things. It's clear that we can look at the people who were involved in all of those, and we can see that they all have connections to American or British intelligence or the FBI. They've had, in the past, worked as informants for either the FBI or they've worked as spooks for the intelligence agencies. In every case, every single case, which tells you that this stinks to high heaven. It wasn't Trump people going out looking for it. It was other people coming to them and trying to coerce them or set them up, trying to get them to take this information. These were people all coming from the outside into the Trump campaign, and most of them have connections to the FBI, British or American intelligence, the deep state, you name it. So what we can see here is clearly this was not an investigation. This was an operation, and we all know where it was being run out of. Langley, CIA, John Brennan, with his good friend Peter's been stroking us. Nunes is getting there. Yes, he is. He is getting there. Just give him a little time. I think he already knows that, but I think he has to get the evidence, and then he can make the accusation, then he can move forward. He can't get ahead of his evidence. And what's preventing him from getting there is that he's being stonewalled by Rodenstein. Rodenstein's not producing the evidence that Nunes needs to be able to establish some facts, and then based on that, ask some more questions and go in the direction he needs to go. It is Rodenstein's preventing that from happening. And that's what they're trying to put a stop to. So it looks like Rodenstein is going to try to, shows no indication based on the letter that I read that he has any intention of coming off the documents. It appears that he is going to want to fight this in court through a judicial process. And that should be very interesting to see how that plays out. And it's kind of crazy because normally when you get someone impeached by the Congress, it's so politically damaging that they resign. But Rodenstein appears that he's digging in. He doesn't show any indication he's going to resign if he's impeached or held in contempt. He's not going to come off the documents. He's going to apparently want to go all the way to the judicial process. And the reason is, of course, is because these people in the deep state, they need to try to run the clock out until the November elections, hoping that they win. I don't think that they will. And if they do lose, and I believe they will lose, then it's going to be definitely a different ball game, because there will be a lot more Trump-supporting members of Congress and fewer Democrats. And the pressure will really come, I think, at that point. I also think Trump does have a plan, and at some point we're going to see it. But there's other people I know. Larry mentioned on yesterday's video that Q is suggesting that there's something that's going to happen before 2018 that's going to flush this out. So, fantastic. Wherever it comes from, however it comes, whenever it comes, it just needs to come. And we'll see how that goes. But at this point, Rodenstein looks like he's going to go all the way. He's not going to come off of it. That shows you how damaging it is. Believe me, if what he's trying to hide from the Congress, from the oversight, if it wasn't really, really damning, he would not be going to these links. I mean, you don't see this happen. You don't see this happen at all. It's unprecedented. So whatever it is that Nunes wants, which we know what it is, he wants to know about those informants. Rodenstein doesn't want him to know about the informants because he will find out that these informants were involved long before the 2016 election. These informants were active in 2015. He's also going to find that they were working in coordination with American and British intelligence before the FBI even got involved. And when you dig a little bit more into that, and you start digging into that, you will begin to see how this information, of how this operation was put into play, and how these characters were, in fact, government informants, and what they were actually doing was not informing, but regular running traps, setups, frame-ups. That's where it's going to lead to the truth, and Rodenstein knows it. That's why the deep state has to protect it, and he's part of it. So, it looks like that's where we are on the Rodenstein situation. As I said, Lee Smith of Real Clear Investigations lays out this case exactly just as I did. He does it with more, he goes a little more in depth and lays out a little bit more of the story because he's operating in a print media environment. I'm operating in a video environment. But you can go back and look at it for yourself. There were 7 different attempts by these individuals who have ties to the FBI, have ties to the American and British intelligence, who attempted to lay a trap for Trump people. Those are not informants. Those are not investigations. Those are operations. Espionage operations. That's what those were. And Mr. Potato Head is right at the root of it. I wonder tomorrow, when they're talking to Peter's been stroking us, if anyone is going to ask him about what he knows about the 6-agency task force. We shall find out. Well, Trump had a big rally last night in South Carolina, and of course he was there to campaign for McMaster, who won, by the way. Big win for South Carolina. I know we had some people, some of my South Carolina subs were there last night. Patty Willing, Patty was there. she put a comment out from her phone. I guess she put the comment. I saw it late last night, 2 o'clock in the morning. I saw the comment. She probably posted it earlier, but she posted a comment, saying, yeah, we're here at the rally. I guess they had a chance to take a shot at Jim Acosta. So I think Patty Willing had some fun last night with all of her friends there in South Carolina, having some fun with Jim Acosta. But it looked like she had a lot of fun down there at the rally. Congratulations to Patty Willing and my South Carolina subs on a big win with Mr. McMaster winning. I think he was one of the very first people, to come out and support Trump. And I think that's why Trump went down there and gave him so much support. On the other hand, we had Mitt Romney, unfortunately, winning his race by like 70% of the vote. So that's not good. We know what Romney's all about, but hopefully, he won't get to show his ass too much because we'll do well enough in the Senate that he will largely be isolated, and he won't really have a group the way McCain and Flake and some of these other guys have their little cabal. Romney might find himself on the outside looking in, and I don't think he's going to be able to be quite the obstructionist that he's planning on being, because I think that's his plan, is to get into the Senate for 2 years, be an obstructionist, build some sort of a base, and then try to challenge Trump in 2020. That's my guess for Willard. Mitt Romney is what he's going to try to do, but I think Willard is going to get his butt kicked, and he's going to get embarrassed if he tries to do this. So anyway, that's bad news. But we also have the Rotten Reverend Clinton was at Cambridge. How about that? She was at Cambridge. Well, a lot of things going on there at Cambridge. I wonder if all her friends were there. I wonder if Mr. Halper, the fat man, was there to hear the Rotten Reverend cry and complain about why she lost. I wonder if Mr. Downer was there, maybe with some more cash to donate to the Clinton Foundation. I wonder if British intelligence people were there. I wonder if Mr. Mifsud was there, maybe Mr. Million, oh, maybe Mr. Greenberg. I wonder if any of those people were there to watch the Rotten Reverend at Cambridge. Apparently, in that speech, she basically said she went on this long rant about white supremacy and authoritarianism taking over the planet, as you see happening all over Europe and things and such. It's not. It's just simple populism. It happens. You have these populist movements. They come and go. They have about a 15-year lifespan, and this type of thing. It's been going on, repeating itself throughout history, not just in this country, but throughout Europe for a very long time. It's not anything like what the Rotten Reverend is claiming, but she needs something to blame for her horrible loss. And those people in the UK understand authoritarianism. They're under it right now. They would love to have Donald Trump. He's a lot more of a freedom lover than anyone that you have going on over there right now in Europe, and especially in the UK. So the Rotten Reverend Clinton continues to make a fool of herself, continues to embarrass herself, continues to lash out against America on foreign soil. But fortunately, they are losing, and that's why they're doing what they're doing, is because they are losing. And ultimately, the Rotten Reverend Clinton, I believe, is going to be indicted. And maybe that's part of her plan, is she's laying the groundwork so that when she gets indicted, she can say, see, just as I've been telling you, this is how authoritarianism works. You go after your political enemies. Yeah, just the way that she went after her political enemy, Bernie Sanders, and rigged the election against him, and how she and her friends went after the president and tried to destroy him. Yes, we understand how that works. You accuse someone of the very things that you do. Right out of the Saul Alinsky playbook, which the Rotten Reverend Clinton and Barack Hussein Obama know very well. The Rotten Reverend never ceases to amaze. You know, just an observation from the last three election things that we've had go on in the last couple of months. Seeing a trend that's very, very bad for the Democrats. It's their worst fear. On the Republican side, what we're seeing is mostly, in about a third of the races at this point, anti-Trumpers. Well, we know a lot of anti-Trumpers just decided they didn't want to be around anymore. It's no fun, so they're leaving. And so we had pro-Trump people come in, and they'll be running against Democrats. That's good. We've also seen where pro-Trump Republicans, in about a third of the cases, are defeating anti-Trump Republicans, which means that we're going to have more Trump people in the House, pro-Trump people in the House, than we have now after 2018, and hopefully we will hold on to the House, and I believe we will. And here's one reason why. What we've seen on the Democrat side in the last 2 or 3 of these primaries that we've seen is that hardcore leftist, Marxist, commies, and Bernie bros running under this Bernie bro label of democratic socialism are kicking the crap out of establishment Democrats. Exactly what establishment Democrats feared, which is why, after the loss in 2016, they began to move hard left toward the hard left, hoping they could corral all those former Bernie Sanders supporters, the Democratic Socialists, Marxist, Communists, whatever you want to call them, socialists, and even the right Reverend Clinton admits that a lot of Democrats are actually socialists. They're Marxist and all sorts of other collectivists. So anyway, what you're seeing is that the hardcore left is beating the crap out of establishment Democrats. There's a lot more of that going on the Democrat side than there is on the Republican side. What that means is that you're going to have a lot of hardcore left-wing Democratic Socialists, commies, Marxists, whatever, running in the general against Republicans, whether they be strong pro-Trump, kind of Trump, not very much Trump, regardless. These people are still going to look normal compared to the far left-wingers that are running in the Democrats. So I think what you're going to see in 2018 is that in the big urban districts, Los Angeles, New York, the places where you would expect, you're going to see a high turnout on the Democrat side, and they're going to win and hold those seats by large numbers because of the popular vote, which they always do. I mean, you know, the Republicans aren't counting on winning New York City, okay, or Los Angeles, okay, or Chicago. They're not counting on winning there. What you're going to see is a lot of really, really hardcore left-wingers are going to be winning in those places for the Democrats in the primaries, which is what they're doing. But when they have to face off against, in a general election, a lot of these candidates, these hardcore, really far to the left candidates in places outside the big urban centers, which are the places where Democrats need to win if they want to really pick up seats, you know, holding on to seats that they already hold, just putting more far left-wing people in them is not helping them. They need to cut into the territory that Donald Trump took away from them. And right now, they are facing a very difficult situation because they're going to be having really, really hard left-wingers running in those places where they'll have practically no chance of winning. Because even Democrats in the Midwest, the Southwest, and the South are not that wacky liberal as the far Northeast and the West Coast people are. So ultimately what this is very bad news for Democrats for 2018, and they know it. That's why they did everything they could to stop it. But in the process of what they did was in the last year and a half trying to corral and go get those Bernie supporters that they lost because they cheated them. In an effort to try to go far to the left to get them, they have opened themselves up and allowed a lot of far left candidates to win and beat more mainstream corporate Democrats. And now they're going to have all these far left wingers, and they're going to be trying to win in the general election in places where they really need to win, in the Midwest and in the South, and they simply are not going to be able to do it with these extreme leftists. They're not going to find the numbers. Normally, in an off-year election, the party in power doesn't have a good turnout. But Trump is going to have a very, very good turnout. He is going to drive a lot of turnout. And so we're going to see record turnout on the Republican side from what we normally see in a midterm. So I think that that's how it looks to me like it's shaping up. And that's good news. Reason to be smiling. Reason to be happy. because we are winning. Thanks so much for tuning in. Bye.